I am out in the garden catching up on weed eating, and it is officially that time of year where we just cannot water enough, especially in these smaller beds. And so I think next year I'm going to make some oyas to go in these smaller beds, and so hopefully that will help them to stay more hydrated. I've been researching, and I think I'm going to put oyas in these smaller beds, and I think that'll help a ton, because the big beds seem to be doing fine. It's just these smaller beds that seem to be drying out before the next water session. And I was trying to stretch and go a day without watering, but usually that starts happening in late June. But I guess it's going to happen a few weeks early this year. Kind of what I have noticed when gardening here in north central Florida is that there's kind of like two to three, actually there's three. So far we're going through our second set of the spring and summer growing season here. So the first set, your things like nasturtiums and your squash and your cucumbers are going to do really well, and strawberries and peas. Then in your second set of summer, your things like nasturtiums don't thrive as well in the super hot humidity. Your squash, that's when your powdery mildew and your squash bugs and your vine borers start to pick up. Your cucumbers will stop producing as many blooms here in the heat. And your strawberries, because I plant everbearing, they kind of quit producing as well. But your things like your peppers, your tomatoes should have almost all of their fruit if you're growing determinate variety, so they'll stop producing blooms, but the fruit will continue to produce. And your eggplants start to do really well this time of year. So we basically have two early growing seasons in the spring and summer, and then in the late summer, you can have a second growing season for your fall set of tomatoes. And some people will try and plant squash. I've found that I cannot plant squash in the fall because I don't have as many pollinators, and I haven't figured out how to attract them as heavily in the fall to pollinate everything. So my squash didn't do as well, even though a lot of people claim that they can do a second crop of squash in the fall. When I was talking earlier about things that start doing well in the heat, something that I forgot to mention are the okra and the green beans start to really ramp up production right now as well. I started watering this first half of the tomato garden when I started weed eating, so now that I'm done with that, I'm going to move these squash, I think, that are down here in the shade. I think are going to do really well through the summer because they have so much shade on them. I really want to move all of my raised beds to this area as well, because then it'll get them out of the direct heat of summer. A really hard thing for people to grasp is that gardens don't always look like Pinterest gardens. It's okay for your garden to have some struggles and to not look perfect. Pinterest is great. I love going to Pinterest for inspiration, but like I said, it can give like a false pretense on what your garden should look like, and it can make you feel defeated, especially as like as the summer heat starts ramping up here in Florida. Things just don't thrive. And then also when you're on social media, a lot of times you're looking at different gardeners, you're following different gardeners who live in different areas. Like my garden is some parts of it are coming to an end, and somebody else's are just beginning. And so you got to remember not to compare yours to somebody else's, because the growing seasons are so different. And like even us here in North Florida, our season is completely different from those down in South Florida. Like a lot of them are already done growing a lot of the things that we're growing up here. Florida has so many different climate zones. And when I was on YouTube, which is kind of one of the reasons that I created a YouTube, I was looking for somebody in my area, because a lot of the stuff I found was for Central and South Florida. And then I really couldn't find anybody in like the North Central Florida zone, because we can grow kind of like South Georgia here, but then some of our stuff is like typical Florida. We do still get the hard frost here once or twice a year, not very often. And so we can't grow necessarily the things that they do down south, but then we can grow more than they do up north. So growing zones are so weird. And then especially across the state of Florida, they're vastly different. Oh, I missed a green bean the other day. That one's jumbo. Like I said, these green beans just started producing this week. And like I know in South Florida, they were picking green beans a few weeks ago, because I bought a bushel. I don't grow enough green beans really to can. I just kind of use them as fillers in the garden, and then I'll purchase green beans. They're so cheap to purchase. And corn as well. Corn is really cheap to purchase as well. I'm not sure. He was over by the arena a while ago. Oh, lovely. All the Crocs he has, and he took your shoes? What I didn't think about when I planted all these green beans down these rows was how close I planted these tomato rows together, because like I said, I wasn't planning on having the 79 tomato plants, so I kind of had to squeeze them in, and I was like, oh, I'm little, I'll be able to squeeze between all of them. But then when I went back and had the green beans, I didn't think again, okay, these are going to look like a jungle between the rows. Great place for snakes to hide, by the way. Haven't found any yet, but I'm constantly looking before I stick my hands in. So next year I do plan on making this area much larger, because I definitely think I'm going to stick with the 80 tomato plants. Like, I don't know, I'll let y'all know when I start processing, but I definitely think 80 tomato plants was a really good idea. Like I said, God just had to tell me, because I was only planning on 40. What, baby? What? I would probably come down to the next section and go across, just in case. My kids are home, so my videos, like as if my ADHD was not enough, now they're gonna be really all over the place. My kids are out here playing in the arena while I do garden chores. So they have a stock tank pool set up that they'll sometimes play in, and then over here in the shade we set up a swing and a tree house that they like to play in. But they love playing in the dirt in our arena. Now here's the fun part where I have to go down the other rows. I'm going to go ahead and pick this tomato. It's the one that the chickens damaged. And I literally just think it's rotting. Yeah, like I see a big old spot here. I might as well just pick it and chunk it. Ugh, so disheartening. I've been making my chickens stay inside a little bit longer again and not letting them out till mid-afternoon just because they decided to start picking the tomatoes. I watched another YouTuber, and I'll have to look back and remember who it was, but I watched another YouTuber this morning, and she was talking about how people were saying chickens are so great for the garden, and I kind of giggled. And she's like the same side as I am. She's like, heck no, don't get chickens to keep the bugs out of your garden. And I kind of giggled because I'm like, she is preaching exactly what I've been dealing with, and that is that my chickens are literally eating my garden if I accidentally let them out to free range when I am not watching them. So, along with her suggestion and mine, I do not recommend getting chickens for the sole purpose of keeping pests out of your garden. Now, if you're getting them for the eggs, and because they're cute and fluffy, and we love chicks around here, by all means, go and get you a set of chickens. But don't get them thinking that you're going to use them as pest control in your garden, because they will find all of your little fruits and snack away. Especially tomatoes. They love tomatoes. She was saying that runner ducks, and I don't have ducks. I had geese, but I had to get rid of them. And so I've never had ducks, so I can't say whether ducks are a good idea or not. If you've never grown green beans before, they are a great first-time plant to grow in your garden because they are super easy. They're a fast producer. They like nitrogen. They give nitrogen back to the soil. They're lush and green. I'm actually going to go in. I tried to do garlic this year, and I don't think I'm successful. It produced a bulb, but the bulb doesn't have individual cloves, and so I keep leaving it longer and longer because the internet says it's not ready if it hasn't produced the cloves. And so I keep leaving it longer and longer, and I'm like, any day now it'll produce cloves. And so far it has not produced cloves, but where the garlic is, I'm gonna pull it eventually and just say the heck with it, it's not gonna produce cloves, because I think I planted it in like October, November, so it should be ready by June, and here we are in June. So I'm gonna pull it eventually and just plant more green beans right there. I don't know if is this the row I just went down? Like, see, it's such a jungle, I don't even know. So the other day I talked about how like I planted and like forgot what I planted and where, and I think I forgot to mention, and maybe I did, because somebody commented like, you need to keep a binder. I do keep a binder, and I also keep notes in my phone, and still, despite all of that, my ADHD can't keep track of what I planted where. Oh, these almost need to be tied up again, and I just tied them up like 2 or 3 days ago. Anyway, okay, there's no squash down here yet. I planted crooknecks down here on this end. I ran out of okra plants, and so I just decided to put in crookneck squash at the end because it was something random that I had seeds for, and so it should start producing in a few days. And that's kind of like, yeah, I don't care.
They're not in the arena.
Oh, no. No, y'all aren't going out into the pasture.
No, where's Levin?
No. No, y'all go play in your tree house or in your dirt pile.
There's one cow out.
Okay, well, y'all don't need to go chase the cows, okay? When me and Dad are out there, it's fine, but not... No, y'all aren't going out there. What okra plant? It like produced 3 leaves, and then like the center of the okra plant is just gone. So I don't think it's going to continue to grow. I actually think I need to spray my okra again. It looks like it's might have worms again. I'm kind of picking a bunch of pieces of the okra really small. Like I'll kind of show y'all what size I'm picking them at in hopes that it really ramps up my production this year. Like I've said, okra it's the one thing that I struggle with every year. So I'm picking it a little bit smaller. Like this is the size I probably would. I'm picking it a little bit smaller this year just so it'll hopefully go ahead and ramp up production. Okay, I think I'm done here. I'm gonna move the sprinkler and start sprinkling the other beds or the water hose, and then we'll pick the cucumbers and stuff that are over there. I don't think there's any squash today. I have a friend who lives in Texas, and we actually share like the same growing zone, and so it's really nice to kind of compare. And her and I were talking the other day. Our cucumbers are basically pretty much done producing. Like you'll see they have a few new blooms on them, but you start seeing a decrease in blooms when these temperatures get like in the mid-90s. And so I've already canned like off of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 or 6 cucumber plants that I planted, and I've already canned 20 quarts of pickles for the year. So if these quit producing and these vines continue to wilt and die, it's not a huge deal. I'm just nursing them along at this point to try and get more. I think 20 things of bread and butter pickles should be sufficient for the year.
What's this?
Oh, that's an eggplant. And I interplanted eggplant in this this bunch, so it should start to... This is like the... This is the
Like the China?
This is the long purple eggplant, and so it should start to take off. I don't know why these are so far behind the bigger ones. I kind of forgot that I planted the eggplant in here till we were talking.
Well, is this like an old bloom?
Yeah, it looks like a bloom that probably didn't get pollinated. Not right now. I know, but they're for the bees and the butterflies. We still had the arrangement we picked on Monday inside the house.
Oh yeah, those things.
I tried to explain to the kids like we don't want to go in and pick all of the flowers because the bees, and if you look over there right now, I'll set the camera up. I'll set the camera up and kind of let it go by itself, but there's a ton of butterflies over in all of the flowers right now.
Yes, when we went to do the vase on Monday, there was a bunch of little baby bees when we went to go clip them.
Yep. It actually looks like powdery mildew is starting to form on these cucumbers as well. Okay, I think that side's got plenty of water. You'll actually notice that if you look, you'll actually notice that this side of my trellis is doing a lot better than the other side, and it's because it's shaded by the other side. So the heat isn't getting to these as quickly as the other side. My husband and I have talked about putting up a high tunnel. Let me see. Oh yeah, you can squash him. My husband and I have talked about putting up a high tunnel, and I've done a lot of research, and I just can't decide if they're going to keep the plants any cooler, even with the shade cloth here in Florida, through the summer. Like, I think it would be good for the winter, but the summer is when I struggle, not necessarily the winter. Yeah. He took the pig back and got a new one. We bought a show pig that ended up having some leg issues, so my husband had to take it back and do an exchange. So I can actually take y'all over there and show y'all show y'all the pig. Give me just a second. That's a lot better. Lost and found.
No. No. And she doesn't walk like that. Like she doesn't walk like that. So we're gonna show this one first.
I was worried the way that other one stressed out.
Would you go this one? The same. Done. Where do you want me to go now? More out.
Go to the flower beds. Like
Wait,
here.
I forgot that one.
Okay, go up and do that
I
one.
needed more water. Like extra.
Just remember only the ground.
So that's where all the roots are.
It also keeps the leaves from getting stuff like powdery mildew and stuff. Or sun scorch because we're watering in the afternoon instead of in the morning.
Can you put the flower bed?
Yes.
I'm so.
Yeah, it's got a leak. I gotta get a new one.
Can I go on top of these? All these garden beds out here? I mean flower beds?
Yep.
I need more hose.
Okay.
Or can you unkink it right there? Hey, what happened? Oh, it's got a kink, Mom.
Okay, pull it a little bit harder. And see if it'll unkink. I actually might have enough green beans to can. I wasn't planning on canning these, but I know that I have a whole bag of them inside in the fridge, so I might actually can these. Okay, let's see if there's any squash for today. I love when the kids come out to help and assist me because
Can you come to the last two beds?
yes, just turn it off and yeah, it doesn't turn all the way off, and just set it on the ground and then I'll come finish. I like when the kids come and assist me. Oh, I weed whacked this squash. So I'll just toss it to the pasture. You're going inside with Rye? Yeah. Okay. There's ice cream and popsicles and sweet tea in the fridge. Always harvesting a ton of lemon squash. I will plant this variety again. Love it. Was my first year planting it, and huge success. Like, I don't know, I might even plant it next year instead of all of the straight necks, because it was so prolific. There's one down here in an ant bed. I don't know about all that, but I guess it wasn't too bad. It does have a more seedy texture to it, or a more seedy middle, but it really didn't bother any of us. Like, nobody's said what's wrong with this squash or anything when I cook it. So a spider. I think there was one more, but I guess not. Somebody the other day asked me if we're saying that the squash leaves make them itchy, and I don't find that the squash leaves make me itchy, but the tomatoes make me insanely itchy. The poor nasturtiums, they are just fried at this point. I lost my watering assistant. Let's see if I can set this up as a sprinkler. There we go. I don't know that there's any zucchini. If I did, I probably weed whacked it too. I really don't know. It comes in like spurts, and I don't even actually see any blooms left on some of this. So it might be, this one has blooms coming. This one has blooms coming. I have a watermelon. A nice, oh, there's a cocozelle. I've only harvested like 3 cocozelle off of these plants. I don't know that I'll plant this variety ever again, just because it hasn't, it takes up a lot of space to only get a couple. Maybe it's a late producer. It's got 3 on it right now. I don't grow very many watermelon. None of us like really love it. We all eat it. My husband says it smells disgusting. So I don't grow a ton of watermelon. So, okay, I think that's it for, oh, there's some cucumbers over here. I'm still waiting on these peas to dry out so I can harvest the seeds from them. What variety was this that I grew right here? It's the golden. It just has no blooms left. I see a few new ones forming. So odd. Some of the others have blooms. I don't see any squash bugs today, so I must have got that under control. I need to come back with some tape, which I think is way up at the house, so I'll have to get it and bring it back. Some tape and get the squash bug eggs off of these, but I don't see any squash bugs today, so that's awesome. Because I saw some that had hatched yesterday, and so I went through and treated with some permethrin, whichever one's approved for organic gardening. Permethrin. I treated with that last night, just at the base of each plant, and so I must have gotten rid of all the squash bugs. Or either they can't stand the heat either, so they've vanished. My little boy found a young one earlier, but I'm going to plop that up like that so it's out of the walkway. Yeah, I don't see any squash bugs right now. I think the powdery mildew is going to take these out. This is a huge Mexican sunflower. I don't know if I've ever talked about it before. There's 2 of them in this bed. I planted a whole packet of seeds that I wanted to like come up between all the squash, and they just, oh, there's another one that's coming up. Ooh, maybe they're just late. Anyway, they just never took off, I didn't think, but Now that I'm looking, I see 3 right here. Maybe they just needed a lot of heat to germinate. Like as in excessive heat, 95-degree heat to germinate. Okay, let's water the herbs and the strawberries, and then I'll put it on the 2 big raised beds. The tomatillo, I think I'm just gonna give up on it. It is what it is. I planted Cracker Jack marigolds this year, and I thought like little marigolds is what they were gonna be. I don't know. Like I know French marigolds is what typically people plant. A friend and I discussed, and she said she had better luck with the Mexican marigolds, African marigolds. She had better luck with the African marigolds, Mexican sunflowers, African marigolds. Anyway, and so I picked the Cracker Jack, I think, thinking they would be like a smaller African marigold. And a lot of the blooms, like that orange one over there and this yellow one back here, are the size of the palm of my hand. They're just gigantic, which is really neat. They're like really pretty. I gotta get up there and do the strawberries. I'm definitely putting Oyas in these smaller beds next year. I'm gonna do the homemade ones just because it's $60 to $80 for the Goya. I just cannot, I don't see paying that. So I'm gonna make the homemade ones. I think I have a squash vine borer in one of my golden zucchinis up here. I'm not gonna do anything about it. I plant so many squash plants that if the squash vine borers start taking them out, and I've already preserved enough squash for the rest of the year. So at this point, if a squash vine borer starts to take out the squash, I'll just pull that plant and dispose of it. And I'm not gonna sit here and inject with a ton of BT and work my behind off for one squash plant. So there's like some saying, and I wish I could remember exactly how it goes, but it was like plant enough so that if you lose something you don't notice. Plant one to live, plant one to die, or whatever. I don't know. It's some saying, and I wish I could remember it or find it again. But that's kind of like been my motto ever since. Plant enough so that if the bugs get in it, or if you do something wrong and end up killing it, it's not a huge deal. This strawberry bed is like really sandy, and so I just kind of flood it with water. Otherwise it dries out insanely fast. Okay. I need to put up my weed eater and then feed all the animals. My little boy wants to go feed the cows, so let me put up what I harvested and go get him to feed cows. Oh, big man. That's such a good daddy. Oh, you got your head in the way, bud. It's aggravating. Ouch. Where's this while I get my bucket? I forgot my bucket to collect eggs. And my Great Pyrenees will come in and eat all the eggs. Somebody cracked one. That's fantastic. Oh, and you have a cracked one too. That one looks like it was a soft shell. Yeah, that one was a soft shell. Check on my little Americanas and make sure they have enough water. And get back, buddy. Oh, y'all need water and food. You'll need both. You're gonna drink all your water and your food. I'll be right back. Hey.
That's my favorite. The one that you can pet that one.
Hey.
Once you can have a baby,
We just haven't had any born here.